How are you doing? Thank you so much for tuning in to the Self-Consciousness Podcast. My name is Jennifer Way. I am one of your hosts. Jermaine Jenkins is my other host. And I am welcoming you to episode 16, where Jermaine and I talk to Laini Risto. Laini Risto is actually my teacher. She's a shamanic practitioner, teacher, medium, and international singer. So I'd been looking for a teacher, and as these things tend to go, I found her through synchronicity. That's usually how it works. I felt a connection with her right away, and I'm so happy to introduce her to you here. Jermaine and I talk with her today about her origin story, and you're going to learn a little bit about shamanism, as she is the ultimate teacher, what journeying is. She actually takes us on what I would call a mini journey with her song. This happens at about 1 hour and 9 minutes in. This is a long one today. So feel free to follow along as she guides Jermaine and I, but please do not be driving any vehicles or operating any heavy machinery. It's important that you're in a nice, balanced, and grounded state. So yeah, I hope you enjoy it. Well, I'll officially want to welcome you on to the Self-Consciousness Podcast. Laini Risto, you are, I'm like, I always say this, but I'm like, you're my favorite person. You are my teacher. I really want you to explain a little bit about who you are, what you do. You are an international contemporary shamanic practitioner and teacher. You're a medium and you're a singer.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love for you to just give us some background on how you came to be, how you really came into the shamanic practice.
Okay, so pick a point in time, because you know me, I know how to talk, and I could suck up an hour or two just getting this part out.
Hey, you're in the right place. Let's start with your first step into the practice of shamanism.
Okay.
Or how you knew you came about it.
Actually, I came to it, what did they say? Ass backwards. Like, I tend to do that in everything I do. I just kind of wake up and I'm in the middle of it sometimes. This is, yeah, that's probably a good place, because I can go back and retrieve parts. Because now, doing what I do, I can look back and see that my whole life was gearing me towards this. It was going this direction. Um, I was born into a very musical family. My parents had, and these are two defining things that brought me here. Um, they had a dance band. They played swing music. It was the era of the big bands. So I grew up. My dad was a drummer. My mom's a piano player. They had a band called the Risto Cats. They played in Grange halls all over the Northwest, Northern California, Oregon, and Washington. I started singing with them when I was 6. Okay. And it was the only place that I found real connection to something outside of myself. Okay, my parents worked a lot. When they weren't working, they were playing their dance jobs, and they loved me. They were great. Okay, but they just weren't available a lot. And so I was raised on this 40-acre farm. And the other key thing that defined who I am at a very young age is my sister had cerebral palsy, the most severe form of it you can have. She had to be fed. She had to have diapers. She was 5 years older than I was. She couldn't speak. And I grew up in a house that was geared around that kind of handicap. And it also led me to being very open to other forms of healing, because when the medical people in the early 50s, up till the early 50s, didn't know really what that was all about. We didn't have the techniques that we had, technical stuff we have now. Um, they they went to chiropractors, which helped. Then they moved on to faith healers and massage therapists. So at a very early age, to me, a massage table and being around energy healing was like, that's a normal part of life. Mm-hmm. And so I got that. I was in that kind of energy between the music and the healing world. I was in that kind of energy, and I've got some very funny stories that you might want to hear later, but of me trying to, I was so excited to go to school because otherwise I was on the farm. And at 7 years of age, I knew what to do if my sister had a convulsion, which she had them all the time. And you never know when they hit. Dilantin and the anticonvulsive medications we have now weren't really available in a big way. And so, what 7-year-old knows how to do that, right? So when I went to school, I just couldn't wait because I was off the farm. My best friends were sheep. They were, my cousins when they came to visit, but there weren't neighbors. Okay, I didn't have neighbors to play with. So I was so excited because I was going to get to play with kids. The only problem was I didn't know what the heck they were doing. I didn't know how to fit in. I spent a whole lot of my life trying to figure out how do I fit in here until you know, the shamanic path opened up about probably about 15 years ago with a real serious accident. And I spent 30 years before that singing. I got six CDs of music of old standards, and up into about the 90s, I'm not so much into the new stuff. I hear things once in a while that go, oh, that's good. My latest craze is to listen to a country a cappella group because they're actually singing. They're not being tuned up in the studio. Yeah. That's kind of my background up till that point. And then in 2007, I was standing in the Fresno Fair in Fresno, California on a stage, and it was a small beer and wine thing. And I was just getting ready to take a breath, that big breath that singers take. And just as I was going to start, this guy walks by, he's eating a corn dog, there's mustard running down his shirt. He's got a beer in the other hand, and he looks at me and he goes, "Sing it again, honey." And I went, I have got to get out of here. This isn't working for me anymore, And I
it was
had a
the
good
mustard
run.
The mustard threw you over the edge.
I don't know. It was just the energy came together, and I just thought, I got to get out of here. It's time to do something new, but I don't know what it is. And it's like spirits heard me, God heard me. And about 6 months later, I was coming down some stairs in my house. And there was a landing that turned and dropped down into a sunken living room. And when I turned, I dislocated my ankle, and then I fell on it.
Oh.
And two bones sticking out of my legs, out of my leg, bleeding all over a white carpet. And my a longtime friend who I hadn't seen in 2 years just happened to be staying with me that weekend.
Oh. Thank God.
And yeah, because I had to go to the emergency room in an ambulance and whatever. And it's like, it took me a while to understand what was happening, because I thought, what the heck is why is this happening? This is such an out of the box thing. Well, 2 hours before that, I was talking to a music friend of mine in California. He says, "Well, what are you going to do now?" And I said, "I'm doing something different." He says, "Well, what are you going to do?" I said, "I don't know. I'm going to step into music like I've never done it before."
Oh.
Yeah.
So everybody who's listening, this is a perfect example of the sense of humor that is embedded in spirit.
Truly. Because I spent the next 18 months, and the story is wheelchairs, walkers, physical therapy, 3 surgeries so I could walk again. And it was an amazing experience. I also, several years before this, had gotten a divorce after 27 years and had stepped into the Gary, a lot of listeners probably have heard of Gary Zukav, who wrote Seed of the Soul. And I studied with Gary Zukav for about 8 years, and it was all about emotional awareness. Where is this coming from in your body? It was just the obvious next step, as I see it now, as I look back. Yeah. And so I came out of that, and it was like a year and a half later. By this time, the boyfriend is getting on my nerves that I had, and I just realized I'm in some kind of hallway of transition, because when I came out of all of that physicalness, therapy and healing and whatever, and I could walk again, I couldn't get on stage easily during that time. Yeah. So when I came out of that, I realized, wow, something's changed here, because all the contracts that paid, because I was on contract a lot of times with organizations at the fairs and the festivals, and all of that had changed because they were business sponsorships usually, and businesses were chopping things to try and, save themselves in 2008. So I went, huh. And I was literally in a bookstore in Portland, Oregon, Powell's Books, if anybody knows where that is, very famous used bookstore. And I'm in the woo-woo section, as we used to call it, and there's this book on the shelf called Soul Retrieval. And I went, whoa, what is that all about? And I went to reach for it, and I swear, it's like something pushed it from the other side, and it fell on the floor in front of me. And I went, okay. And it's written by Sandra Ingerman, and my other shamanic sister friend now was with me. I said, what is this? This just fell off the shelf. And she said, oh, I've read that. I really want to take her class. So we drove to the airport in Portland, told her husband, and she says, but I'm not telling my husband. Because we just spent a week with Gary Zukoff in Ashland. She says, I'm not telling my husband. You tell him. I said, okay, fine. I'm driving the car. So we're driving. Her husband's next to me in the seat. And I said, well, Jan and I got this book, and we're going to take a class because the next beginning workshop was the very next weekend in Las Vegas. He came back with her.
Oh my God.
And we all three went through it. And that was the beginning in 2008. But what I see is that transformation was coming long before that. It probably started when I got a divorce in 2002. I had to work. It had to work its way out. And if we look back at our lives and see where we came from, what we came through, you can see, if you give it a chance, how we came into this moment right now. And so, by 2013, I stepped off the stage. I was done. I kind of kept dwindling it down, but that's why I say I came to it ass backwards, because I didn't see it coming. I knew about shamanism from watching Westerns on TV. What did I know about it, right? And I in 2011, my friend that was in the bookstore with me, who has now taken everything that I have taken, all right, we both came to it this way. And she said, well, Sandra is teaching a 2-year teacher training. And I said, well, have a nice time. Because I had no intention of teaching, and I was seeing clients, and that was it. I was seeing clients and loved the work. And I felt with each client, I always connect with another part of myself. Even today, even working with you, Jennifer, it comes up. Yeah. And so she said, well, I think you should go because you need to be my roommate. I said, well, okay, but I'm not going to go just to be your roommate. I have to want to do this, so send me the stuff. So she did. And I looked at it, and I drug my feet, and it's a lot of money. All the parts that come up and say, you don't want to do this. You don't want to do this. You want to just be safe where you are, because you don't want to move forward. And at the very last minute, I did a journey, which is, we can talk more about that. And I said, should I do this? And it's like this whole zoo showed up of animal spirits for me, just kind of nodding their head like this. Wow. And I went, okay. I said, we're going to do this. And it's a 2-year intense training. And it was about being able to teach beginning and advanced shamanic practices. And came out of that and ended up having an office here in Vegas. And for about a good 4 or 5 years, I ended up teaching. I would have 30 and 40 people. Yeah. So anywhere from 15 to 40 people show up half a dozen times a month. And I just lead them and open the doors for them shamanically and work with them. And then, and then 2 years ago, the man who owned this decided to move his center, and I was guided not to move with him. And I brought my business home, and there were some circumstances that, again, led me to this decision. If this isn't right for me, I need to go back home. So I came home and brought it home, and I was into this year of transformation before COVID hit, trying to figure out, what do I do now? This is not, and now I've got new tools in my basket. I don't have to break a leg to change my path.
You literally don't have to break a leg.
I don't have to break my leg, And so The COVID this time has been very good for me. Um, things have happened. As Jennifer knows, my middle daughter passed away, not from COVID, but about 8 months ago.
Sorry.
And but it's been a time for me to just focus on me, to guide me from the inside out, not from the outside in. Because the way I was doing it before, which was good, was people would come wanting to know, and if they wanted to know, I'd tell them, right? And so now I'm in a spot where I'm redesigning myself again, and the music's coming back. It's coming back. Jennifer's heard some of it, and I'm doing new age music, and which is a surprise to me. In 2002, when I got a divorce, I was going to hit the road, and I was going to sing. I'm still known for singing Patsy Cline songs. I've had people come up to me when I sang and say, "Oh my God, Patsy's alive. She's in the building." And I'd say, just like she would say it, "No, honey, she died in 1957, and I'm not a reincarnated Patsy Cline."
Yeah. But if you want to talk to her,
if you want to talk to her, give me a minute, and I'll go into an altered state, and you can talk to her if you want. So, yeah. So there we go. That took up about
and Patsy
15
Cline,
minutes.
pretty easy singer to imitate.
No, and the funny thing is, I would never try to imitate her. There's so many people that try and imitate her. I still have people wanting me to say, "Oh, could you sing Crazy one more time?" If you'd like me to go crazy one more time, yes, I will sing Crazy one more time.
Oh God.
So there's 15 minutes of me.
No, it's
things you didn't know. You didn't know, right, Jennifer?
I mean, I didn't. I don't know. I didn't know about the ankle. I know that you had an injury. I didn't know how you had done it. And of course, I've got that image of the bone sticking out.
Yeah,
but isn't that always the way, though?
It's not pretty. If you're gonna do, I said, okay, if I'm gonna do something, do it 100%. I did it.
If I'm gonna break a bone, I need visual evidence.
I want to make sure I can't walk up steps to a stage. Yeah, that's right.
God, I mean, you just, I found you through the recommendation of someone that I had been in touch with. And I've talked about this on the podcast a couple of episodes ago.
Yeah, Sean, the Rattle Maker, my good friend.
The Rattle Maker. And I wanted to find out if he could be my teacher. And then he said he wasn't teaching, and he recommended you, right? Like, very simply, phone number, name. I was like, okay.
We actually taught spiritual warfare together, and asked me if I thought I would ever teach spiritual warfare, because I left the church, organized religion, when I was 14. The minute they told me the reason that my sister had cerebral palsy, and this was very convoluted, I'm not going to mention names because I don't want anybody to think that the church is bad. I'm just not into organized religion. I'm just not.
Neither.
Yeah. But very convoluted when they said, well, the reason your sister has cerebral palsy is because she sinned. Yeah. And I went, she did not sin. Yeah. You people are crazy. Yeah. I'm out. So, yeah. So I don't have that background that a lot of people have, but I honor it because that is a doorway to whatever their guiding higher divine intelligence is, whatever they want to call it. God, Yahweh, Great Spirit, all of that. It's interesting because Sean comes from more of a very Christian background, but he was a full Cree American native or North American native. And so he's got a lot of that influence where I don't. So it was really interesting when we would teach spiritual warfare, because here I come from this side of what's going on, and here he comes from the side that I should be on, and I'm really not. So we make an interesting combination, and we did that for several classes. We did that, and it's been very interesting. In fact, when he came to town, the shamanic way is to let the other shamans in the area know that you're there. That's the ancient shamanic way. And so he called me and said, "Hi, I'm Sean, and I'm here, and I've come into town, and I'm letting them know that I'm here, and I would really like to get together with you." And I said, "Well, that's interesting. I'm going to Canada because I'll be back in a month." So by the time I came back, he'd gotten interconnected with some people, but then we picked up from there. And he said to me, he goes, "Why is everybody calling me a shaman? What is that? I don't even know what that is." Because people hear shaman and they think Native American, and that's typically in this country, that is not their moniker for it. That doesn't work. Maybe in South America, but the word shaman actually comes from Siberia, from the shamans in Siberia. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So you just learned a whole bunch you didn't know you wanted to know too.
Jermaine, do you have any questions about it?
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm taking it all in. This is very interesting.
Yeah. Shamanism has, I'm not what they call an ancient shaman. I'm ancient sometimes, but I'm not an ancient shaman. But I'm more aligned myself with contemporary shamanism, because the shamanic path is actually over 100,000 years old now, they've decided. And the reason it has survived and it's becoming very popular because it's more all-encompassing than a specific spiritual path, the reason it's becoming so popular is because people are now, because of what we've been through, they're reaching out. It's the old ways are not helping. So the reason it's survived so long is because it evolved with the needs of the people of the time. And so there is a foot in the shamanic world, quite a big one, where people say, well, you have to do rituals the old way, which I will do them. But the way I do it is I have a relationship with my guiding spirits and teachers, and I don't make a move without checking in with them and saying, I'm here on behalf of Jennifer. Here's what she wants to have in her life. Here's what she wants to change in her life. From your view in the grandstands of the baseball game called Jennifer, what do you see needs to happen? And then they give me suggestions, and I come back and talk with the client and say, here's what they say and what rings with you. Because I learned a long time ago that I can see where people need to go or where they can go, but that doesn't mean that's where they're going to go. What are they ready to do is what I have to figure out, and then we go from there. So.
Yeah, I think that's such a huge, important part. I find that I think when you're talking about working with clients, it's especially me as a kind of a newbie, it's definitely it's hard to remember that not everyone's ready to hear,
and everybody's on their own path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think when I started out, I got so excited when I would get clear information for them that, but I guess part of the way that I intro the whole session, I always have to make sure that this is only information that they're ready to receive. But yeah, I mean, you and I did a journey together. We started working together, I guess, a couple of months ago now.
I have notes somewhere. When I find them, I'll let you know.
No sense of time anymore. I'm like, I feel like we started working in February, but I who knows at this point.
I think we're into April. If it was February, it was the end of February.
End of February. And
yeah,
I've done journeying before, but the journeying and the soul retrieval that we did together, I've never had it work so deeply. I've never worked with anyone on this level before. I've worked with shamans who've been trained by Sandra. I've worked with shamans, who were former psychologists. And, none of it gave me such a visceral experience, both during and afterwards, as the work that I did with you. So if you can talk a little bit about what journeying means and what that really is in the shamanic tradition.
In the tradition, and we'll go way back. In every tribe, let's go back to ancient days. In every tribe, there was a spiritual healer. Now, that spiritual healer might also be the medicinal healer for the tribe. It might also be the emotional, psychological healer, if there was such a thing in those days. But you could be a medicinal healer and not a shamanic and not the spiritual healer. Okay? So it was worldwide. Every tribe on the planet, they all interacted with nature, and that was their way, because they knew things were happening that they couldn't see, taste, touch, or feel. So They lived in nature way more than we do. They didn't have the kind of walls that we do and the insulation and the traveling the way we do. And the spiritual healer was known to be able to be in this reality and step into that other reality that they couldn't see and bring back information that was helpful to the tribe. And so the way of doing this, and it depends on the culture, was in listening to a monotonous sound, whether it be a drum beat. I should grab my drum so people can hear it. I will.
Ooh,
Ooh,
a treat, you guys.
a monotonous drum beat, chanting, rattle, and it's steady, or there's a pattern to it of some kind. Okay. So here's one, and I hope the recording can pick it up without overdriving it. So
it should be good.
And this just goes on like this. And what it is, if you use a drum like this is a bass drum because I like that depth of that sound because it connects to Mother Earth. It grounds people. So no matter where you go in your journey, whether we're up talking in the clouds to something or we're talking to an animal in the forest, this is going on in the background. Okay? The other way, so this is considered, this roots you to the earth. This one, this is a Sean rattle. Yeah. Okay. It stirs things up literally. But again, it's this monotonous sound. And after a while, it goes into the background and it becomes just in the background for you. Some people chant. They chant when they do it. Some people do singing when they do it. Of course, I'm a musician, so it all works for me.
Yeah.
But when I was in teacher training, there was a woman, she lived on the East Coast, but she had done some training with a woman over in, I think it was Denmark. And when we started, we would have 60 people in this training with Sandra. And we would do journeys and we would drum and there's a lot of dancing involved. And so we would be doing that and then we'd stop and then we'd go on a journey and Sandra would say, okay, we're going to journey and we're going to journey to your spirits in the lower world. You know, so, and she'd play the drum while we all 60 people are laying around journeying. Okay. And this woman said to me afterwards, she goes, I don't get it because the way I learned to do this, you dance. And I said, well, so get up and dance. I mean, what's the deal? By the end of the training, half of us were up with her dancing to the drum beat and journeying at the same time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's the monotonous sound. And that, what it does is it helps change the waves. And if you were hooked up to an oscilloscope so you could see what your brain waves are doing, it goes into what we call the theta state. And in that state is where meditation happens as opposed to beta waves and alpha waves. In that state, your brain kind of disconnects and goes into an altered state. And some people say that's where you meditate. I say that's where I go on a journey and go talk to my lion or whatever. Yeah. It's just another way of doing it. So in Jennifer's case, she came to me. She had something. We figured out what it was she wanted to work on, and I went in a journey. And I went to where I go because we pick a place in nature that I have people start where they have visited. That way, it acts like a back door, so that if you're out wandering around in an area where you've never been before, and it's time to come back, and there's always a callback beat. This is going along like this. And when it's time to come back, it slows down and it goes like this. That's a callback beat. Okay? Mm-hmm. That means whatever you're doing, turn around and come back and head back to the farm, wherever it is. Okay? And then it goes into a real subtle beat that goes while people are coming back. And then it usually ends with that. Again, that 4 times beat.
There's a little part of me that was just like, oof.
Yeah, it does.
Like
and a drum will do that. I mean, think about the best rock and roll song you've ever heard. Anybody that hears da 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 da, I mean, we're off. We're gone. You know, it's there. So in that state, what I do is I go to my place, which is a place on the Oregon coast at the beach where I always loved it. Place called Neskowin, and there's a huge rock like Cannon Beach. Wow. And I go there and I meet my spirit guides and teachers will show up in a form that I understand. And I might I'm working right now. I'm working a lot with a big Black Panther that works a lot with eating negativity. It's famous in mythology for working with darkness and getting rid of it. Um, and and I say, I'm here for Jennifer. She wants to know blah 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 blah. What do you think? And then they give me a prescription basically and saying, if this is going to happen, here's what needs to happen. And they may tell me a soul retrieval, like we did with Jennifer, which is where I'm looking for a part of her soul essence that has gone, well, we say it leaves, but psychologically you could say it goes unconscious, so it's not available to her. We could do a cycle pump, which means literally guiding people to the light. This is people that have passed on that are still attached to this reality with their ego that needs to move on, but because they still think they're alive, or they still have, let's say Jermaine, you and I get in an argument, and it's a heated one, and we've been at it for years, and all of a sudden I pass on, and even though it's been a heated argument, we're very connected in some manner. That argument is still going on, or you feel guilty. You feel guilty about something you said in it, and you wish you could get it back. That can, if this spirit isn't had enough to release, that can keep it in its place instead of moving on in its reality wherever it is to its next step. That's some of my favorite work. There's shamans don't care, or ancient or contemporary. We don't care whether whether the spirit's in the body or it's on the other side, because what we're all about is healing this spirit, this soul, so that it can go on to its next step wherever it is. So the journey is the main tool of the shaman to get into that altered state, to get to the information that needs to come back and can be given to the person or the community or whatever for the better. Does that work?
Yeah. I have one question. So like with the soul retrieval, how does one lose part of their soul?
Through some form of physical, spiritual, or emotional trauma. Let's take the worst case scenario, really severe physical or sexual abuse, torment of some kind. It's like a part of your soul essence that it's got some part of your personality that's gifted to it, and it's attached, because we're not a bunch of parts walking around. They're integrated. And it's like it says, man, this is too intense. I can't do this. And it leaves. And it takes with it whatever it is that it needs to have, that it's taking care of. And so in a journey for that, like in the journey for Jennifer, I went on this journey, and I went to this, I can't remember. I'm not going to give hers because it's her private information. But I would go to a place where I'm guided. Well, I can't remember it right now anyway. I've done it for since then. I'll tell you one that I do remember.
Awesome.
That I just did not long ago. And things have gotten so complex for me as far as healing in this COVID. It's like, I'm not just doing this. Okay, now we're doing a soul retrieval. Now I'm doing a psychopomp. I've had some where I'm combined about 3 of them where we took one to do it before. Yeah. And so in this particular one, she had been born into a big family. She never felt like she fit. Every time she'd try to integrate into this family, something would happen, and she'd end up picking up the pieces and feeling horrible about being so leaned upon and was used and whatever. And ended up going on a journey, and I took her with me. I can guide people with me now to go there. I don't know if we did. Did we take? We took
it was
you with
awesome.
Me.
I saw everything you described.
Yeah. The more intuitive and open the person is, the easier it is to do just that piece. Otherwise, I can just go and get it and come back and bring it back, and integrate it back into their soul. But in this particular one that I remember, we were taken back to a church in a past life in a time that was incredibly conflicted. I don't know what the details were. They only show me what I need to know to get this soul and bring it back. And so here she is. We're in this church. There's a young woman standing there that has basically been sold as a slave, and it's her ancestor. And she's standing there, And because she had been sold into as a slave to this ancestor so long ago, she grew up in it, and so she was very tied to this person. Well, she got murdered. I don't know who did it, didn't matter. Somebody caused her death. And her spirit is now stuck in this church waiting for this guy that she felt so tied to as her master to come and release her so she could move on, because she didn't make a move without him telling her what to do in the life she lived. So I took this woman back with me. We went and talked to her, and I said, okay, you need to talk to this woman and tell her who you are. This is my client. Who you are, and that her, however it happened, whether she'd had children by this owner or whatever, was still there, that you were connected. And all of a sudden, my client's crying. The spirit we're talking to is crying, because it's like she's waking up from a dream. She thought she was still alive. And so we said, before we can bring this soul retrieval back, bring this little person back that my client's missing, you need to move on. And so what do you need? Because now I've got two clients. Now I not only have the person I'm working with in this life, but I'm working with this other one. Yeah. And it's not me doing the work. It's the energy I'm tied to coming through me. This is where the mediumship piece comes in. Yeah. And so we did that, and there was tears all around. I even had a few, and moved this one on. She went into the arms of one of her own relatives she wanted to see again, her mother or something. And I took this woman back to a place in nature that she was, and went and found this part, which was tied to the gift, and it always comes back with a gift. Yeah. I don't remember what yours was. If you remember, you can say it, Jennifer. But came back with this gift that this woman absolutely knew what she wanted to do, and nobody was going to stop her from what she wanted for her soul. That was the gift it brought back.
That's a great gift.
And it's been an amazing experience to watch this unfold, because she's since she's got an older family. She was one of the younger ones in this huge family, like 10 kids. And most of them are starting to pass now. And they keep calling her to come fix things. And her challenge is, no, I just talked to her 2 days ago, which is probably why I can remember this. Yeah. She says, I don't know what I'm doing. My brother's in bad shape. His wife just died. He's taking care of everything, but he's starting to feel better. Now he's telling me what to do again. And I said, it's simple. What do you want to do? Because everybody needs to take care of this first in themselves. And so to watch her be able to make these changes now, where she would just suck it up and take a deep breath and burn herself out trying to take care of this family situation. It's not happening. Yeah. So does that help, Jermaine? Oh, God. You didn't know I was going to say so much. Sorry.
No, thank you. It's very interesting, because I've seen, like, I guess I'm not sure if it's the same thing, but, like, the online or the television mediums like Teresa and can't remember Kim's last name, but where they'll go into like a haunted place for someone and tell them what happened there and why they were having paranormal experiences, and then they would talk to the spirit to get them to leave. And they did it so easily. I didn't know if that was like real or not.
Well, it can be, but I'm not going to speak for them. I know I've read some articles where Teresa has been dissed about how she does it. I kind of come from this viewpoint that the people that need to find me will find me. Mm-hmm. I feel like I've been through graduate school on this whole thing, and the more I know, the more I realize this. I truly understand. The more I know, the more I don't know. Yeah. Okay? Mm-hmm. But everybody has a purpose. All the mediums of the world have a purpose that can, and the people that need their level of information they'll be guided to them to do that. I will say this though, I started teaching mediumship, although not a lot of shamans do that, because I'm in a situation where we got a lot of psychics in town in Las Vegas. A lot of mediums, a lot of psychics, and it's a regular, hey. Like I said, I heard it coming.
I heard that.
Anyway, a lot of people, they're on like street corners. It's a regulated license because of all the prostitution laws that we have in Nevada. Oh. Being a medium and a psychic is a regulated license. And it's very controlled, which is funny because I grew up in an area where you just said, oh, yeah, put a sign out in your front door and say, yeah, I'll do a reading, right? Yeah. Which I didn't do because I thought, I don't know what that's all about.
Yeah.
But the thing I will say about mediums, and I started teaching it for this reason, is because I would ask them, who are you talking to? And they'd say, well, my guides. And I think Jennifer and I have had a couple conversations like that. And I'd say, yeah, but who are they? And they'd say, well, they're my guides. And I said, but who is it? And they don't know. They can't tell me. Now, the other work that I do, that I don't advertise it a lot because it's got a whole mystique around it that I don't even want to go into today, okay, is I do what they call compassionate depossession.
Okay.
And I will tell you, based on some of the work that I've done, it's not my favorite thing to do, but I do it very well. And the reason I think I do it very well is because I can't see what it is I'm talking to. If I saw what I was talking to, I'd probably never do it again. You know? But there is an intelligent darkness because we live in a world of duality, black and white, good and evil, yes and no, you know. Mm-hmm. There is an intelligent darkness that matches the intelligent light. And those two are constantly in motion, pushing back and forth against each other. And so there is an intelligent darkness that can mimic being the intelligent light, because what they want is the control of choice that we have. And the reason we have choice is because we've got these two sides that we're dealing with. So yeah, I've been in situations. I just remember the first time, it was another one I came to ass backwards. Because I think this is an important thing for people to discern when they're going to somebody, is to really ask them questions. Who are you? And what is this source you're talking to? You know? The very first time, and it was while I was in teacher training, which is why it led me down this path, is there was a woman from Ireland that came to me in the class, and she said, out of the blue, she said, you know, the good spirits are looking for people that can talk for them, especially in this situation about depossession, which I do. And I went, okay. And she said, have you ever thought about it? And I said, no, not really. I'm not into horror flicks, and you know, what's the one that everybody goes crazy for? It's the musical, the horror picture show.
Oh, Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Where everybody gets dressed up and goes. Yeah, that's about the extent of what I like to watch.
Yeah, I've never. Yeah,
I'm not into all that other stuff. And she said, I'm just telling you that if spirit thinks that you have the ability to do this, it'll show up. And so, and if it does, I just need you to know it's a choice. They don't care. They'll just, if you say no, they'll just go find somebody else that can do it for them. I said, okay. 2 weeks later, I'm working on a kid that I met him at, I had a table at something in town here. And this kid walks up and he looks at me and he goes, I think you can tell me who I'm hearing all the time. And I looked at him, and his eyes, I couldn't see the whites of his eyes. They were just all black. It's the image that I got. And I went, huh, this is interesting. Yeah. And he said, I would like to have a session with you. And I said, okay. You know, so he came in and he'd had trouble with, he was diagnosed as schizophrenic. And this does not mean all schizophrenics have,
yes, you have please everybody. This does not mean.
You have to journey. I would have to journey on it to decide. And what they showed me was, clever people that they are, showed me is that I needed to show him how to close the doors, his energy doors. Because it's like his were wide open and anything could come through. And I've done a lot of that work. So I get about 8 beats into this. His mother has come with him, and he's like 20. His mother has come with him, and all of a sudden he's on the floor, and there's this voice coming out of him.
So the man was on the floor.
And I'm going to say, so I'm going to intercede something here.
Yeah.
This is, to me, in my world, the way I look at it, and some people say, oh, she's crazy, and that's fine. I've been told that before. And I still function. Imagine that. Is that it's very typical, especially in the situation that we're in right now. I don't know how many people you will have listening. It doesn't really matter, even if it's only one.
Yeah.
That intelligent darkness doesn't want somebody like me to come along and start giving this information out. So I look at what just happened as being, oh yeah, okay, you guys are still listening to what I'm doing.
Yep.
Okay. So, and my gardener felt really bad. And I said, you had no way of knowing, and I didn't know you were coming,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let me get back to it.
That always happens. Yeah.
The guy's on, and to notice things like that. Is that the truth, the absolute truth? I don't know, but it's a good thing to at least notice that it's a possibility.
To consider. And especially when you notice that happens all the time.
It does. And the older I get and the more I do this work, there are very few random accidents. It's just, there's something in everything that happens. So I have to finish this now.
Yeah, absolutely.
The guy's on the floor. His lips are literally, I'm looking at him and they're rippling like the ocean. And I'm pounding on the drum and I'm going, okay, I don't know what I'm doing now. I don't know what I'm doing now, and all of a sudden, who I work with certain spirits, and one of them is some of the ascended masters, like Saint Germain. It's that energy of them, not them specifically. That's the other thing. People make a mistake. They think they're like human form over there. It's the energy coming into a form to help us understand what they're about. And so I'm merged with the helping spirit that I work with, which is, since I'm pretty much Nordic, okay, it's Freya. It's the goddess it's Freya. It's the goddess of in Nordic terms. And she comes in and she just merges with me. I mean, I can feel this energy coming in and it's taking over, and we did what we needed to do. And the mother's sitting there and we got done, and this thing popped out of this guy and it's floating around the room, and I'm going, I don't know what I'm doing here, and I keep hearing, it's okay. And the mother, we got him all done. I brought him back into his body, and he's just kind of dazed, and his mother is going, I'm so glad that happened here. It never shows up for anybody else, but it shows up at the dinner table, And I said, okay, well, and just so you know, Jennifer, that if it shows up for you, when somebody show up and I've been in the situation where I'm nose to nose with this energy, and it's telling me, well, I'm not going anywhere. You can't make me go. And I'll say to it, because the universal law is, we are the only ones that have a right to be in our body. The only energy in our body is ours. Okay. And I look at it and say, yeah, you are. And it says, no, I'm not. And I said, yeah, but I know one reason that you are. And he goes, why? And he says, it's the universal law, right? This energy is telling me this. And I said, yeah. And I says, no, that's there, but there's another one. And he goes, why? And I said, because you showed up today for me, which means you're out of here. If they show up for a person, there's something. These ones that come to me, they're showing up because I'm the designated driver to take them home, whether they know they want to or not.
Wow.
So
you are the designated driver.
I am, So welcome to my world. Yeah.
Wow.
And so some days I wish I could just go back and sing crazy again. And I might. You never know.
So I guess one of the things that I'm noticing, and when you had gotten up before, Jermaine and I were just talking quickly about like horror movies and something, and I had said that I literally can't watch horror movies because I just observed myself and how I felt after I watched them. So I was like, yep, don't want to feel that way. So it was very easy for me to just kind of like be like, that's my rule, that's my thing. But the fact is that we are inundated with so much content,
and visual content,
visceral, gory, super violent and dark images and pieces of art as our entertainment, and people are so engrossed in feeling bad that it's like, now think for a minute, who does this benefit, you feeling bad? This is not good for you. I never understood people's fascinations with horror movies, although again, I cannot judge people. I mean, a lot of people just are fine with it. It's not something that they have an issue with. I think for me, as you've said, I'm so sensitive. My imagination was and continues to be the main thing in my life. I was saying yesterday, or I was saying the other day on a podcast, I was like, I realized I don't have inner dialogue. It's I've blasted it out. And when I talk to people, they're literally having to hear my process, which isn't fair. So it's kind of like, I can't expose this brain to such impactful media.
But listen to how you're knowing yourself now.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know themselves. And the other thing about fear is, and there's a reason it's this way. Fear is, it's either fear or love. This is what I learned from the years of with Gary Zukav.
Yeah.
And coming from fear, fear can disguise itself. It can be disguised as overwhelm to stop you, to keep you safe. My approach to working with fear is that some people look at it as like I'm a victim to my fear, and we got to get rid of it. Well, you're never going to get rid of fear. We live in this dual reality. We're always going to have it, and we need it because, as I told Jennifer, it keeps me from seeing a car coming down the street and going, "Oh, I'm fine," and stepping out in front of the car. Yeah. We got to keep it. But the problem is when it drives the boat. So fear can be our greatest teacher. And it's also the one that's easily accessed because it can bring on a sudden emotion just like that. So think of all these people, and I'm not saying all of them, because I know some really good people that love horror films. Usually they laugh at them, most of the ones I know.
Yeah.
That are going, wow, and they can feel something in their body, maybe really truly feel it for the first time in a long time. Because there's so much of what we do in this Western culture that's numbing. It's just numbing. From eating flour and sugar to, getting addicted to watching. I mean, you can get addicted to so many things in this culture. You can get addicted to your thoughts.
Yeah. Oh my God. We were just talking about that today. Mm-hmm. Or yesterday, Jermaine. Mm-hmm. We were talking about like addiction and, that phrase, I have an addictive personality. I feel like the reason we have addictive personalities is because we live in a world and society and culture that doesn't meet our needs as humans.
Yeah, and
communal or interpersonal.
I also think that we need to look at that. What is the other side of addiction? It would be non-addiction, but what is that? Is that being free? Is that, and addiction serves its place. Where's the line drawn between I have to get this done and I got to do this again because it feels so good? Where's the line?
Yeah.
So where does our drive turn to addiction? I think that's the question to ask. And when did that happen? Because if you didn't have drive, you might sit all the rest of your life in addiction, smoking weed and watching cartoons. Who knows?
Yeah, I feel called out. No, I'm just kidding.
I can binge watch with the rest of them. My latest binge watching is Resident Alien. I have the best time watching Resident Alien. That is so cool.
What is that?
Oh,
wait, is that with like Mila
Have you seen
Jovovich?
it, Jermaine?
I think I've seen the previews for it.
It's very cool. It's the coolest thing.
Like he's a detective or something. The alien.
No, he's an alien that he's on a mission to Earth, and I'm not going to ruin it for anybody. He's an alien that's on a mission to Earth, and on the way to Earth, his ship gets struck by lightning over the mountains, and he lands in this little town. I think it's called Passion, Colorado. I don't know what it's called, but it's a town of everybody's a misfit. He's a misfit. Everybody's a misfit, and he figures out he can't go home to his planet until he finishes his mission. And so he's out in the woods with a tennis racket that he's made into an antenna to pick up pieces of his shit, walking across the mountains. But he has to integrate into the town so they don't know he's an alien. And the only one that can see him is a 6-year-old boy. It is cool. It is just cool. It's on the Sci-Fi
Channel.
Yeah. And it doesn't have a laugh track. So there's funny moments. There's other moments. Yeah. I don't want to give away too much because I have laughed out loud to the point that the dogs come up and start barking like they just did because they think somebody,
See, I feel like when I do see media that talks about either new age or horror or any of those things, and if they put humor in it, for me, that just feels a little bit more balanced. I always feel like humor is that's kind of the basis for the podcast. It's like, we don't want to take it too seriously. Like there has to be some kind of humor element to healing. and to spirituality in the terms that we speak about.
Spirit has great, and I want everybody to know, even though I do this work with depossession and everything, and Jennifer's heard it, I always declare the energy around me, what it is. And I ask for the highest divine source that feeds my soul, and declare it, whatever that is. But it's important for people to understand it when they're watching that stuff, to understand that we have it in this moment and the next moment can be something else. And I was just thinking when you were talking about the humor, and Spirit has a huge sense of humor.
Huge sense of humor.
Huge sense of humor. Yep. I mean, now I can look at it. I couldn't then. I mean, I'm going to step into music in a way I've never done it before. Tonk.
Yeah.
Really? Try this one on.
Really smart humor.
and I always think of the Karate Kid, the first Karate Kid, when Miyagi is standing there talking to Daniel's son. And he says, I really like your belt. And he goes, $9.95 JCPenney. And I'm going, perfect.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's perfect. And the Avengers movies, that's why it struck everybody. There's that bold spiritual element of we're going to be the good and we're going to whatever. And at the same time, there are these stupid things that happen that they have to deal with,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think it's important. Yeah, I think that's always important to, hold on one sec. I just want to, just bear with me 1 second. I want to make sure that.
Yeah, if you can put up with my gardener and the dogs.
Oh my God. Oh God. So I actually just, hold on 1 second. Okay, we're good. I realized that my sound was so bad the last couple of episodes, and I called the people that I bought my kit from, and I was like, I'm about to buy a new microphone. I've tried all these things. I don't know what's working. And they had me on a Zoom call, and they were like, you've got to turn the mic around. I was like, okay. And I felt all these things, which were stupid, but also relieved, because that's all I was like, great, I don't have to spend the money on a new microphone. But I was like, oh, okay.
Which one is that?
It's a cardioid microphone. So it only picks up here.
Yeah.
And one of the, yeah. And I was talking to that, and I was like, there's just this echo that I can't get rid of. And Jermaine was like, this is why Jermaine is one of a very small group of best friends. He was like,
I like his energy. I like your energy, by the way, Jermaine.
Thank you.
You are like a freaking sponge.
Thank you.
Yeah, you are. It's good. I love people like that because they're open.
Yeah. Never judgment, I mean, we judge certain things, but I think just such a genuine person.
We all gotta be in judgment. We all have judgment. It's just the way it's who we are. It's catching it is the problem.
Yeah. But he was like, he's like, yeah, I totally get it. Why do they make microphone? Well, if it's only recording one part, then why would they make the microphone? Why would they design it to look like you can talk in any part of it? I was like, oh my God,
is kind of, you got to wonder about that. Now you've got the setup there, Jermaine.
Yeah. Well, but it's the same way. If I were to just turn this mic around, you couldn't hear me because there's this one, the name is right there. You can speak into the name.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have in the studio. I'm an old hand in the studio at my friend's recording studio. So it's just, very interesting.
I really want to introduce you to people in general. That's really one of the biggest reasons why I wanted you on the show. And I personally believe that there's so much there's so many spiritual practitioners and healers out there that and listen, I'm one of them. But I've been doing it for 5 years. I've been feeling it for 44. So it's I've always had something like this where I thought differently than most people, or acted differently, or felt like I would hear and see a lot of things. I had a lot of fears. I just didn't know how to interpret it. And I think a lot of people can come from those places, but I do feel like there's just a lot of sales and marketing that tend to dilute whatever kind of energy is being given. And to me, you are, I don't know how to describe it. I mean, I'm hoping that the listeners can feel it. There's this genuine, down to earth, non-judgmental funny, and incredibly talented and wise perspective that we're just missing today. I
Thank you.
Yeah.
I had a
and I
smart
love
ass
you.
remark, but here's what I was gonna say.
As I wipe the tears, I love you.
If my ex-husband were alive, who I still dearly love, we just weren't good friends. If he were still alive, could you write that down and send that to him?
I'm gonna send it to him right now. My fingers are at my temples. This is my move. I'll put my fingers at my temples and I go, I'm sending it over.
Well, what's interesting is when you asked me if I wanted to do this, I was going to say, well, maybe. And what came out of my mouth was yes. And I went, okay, here we go again. And I've learned not to fight it, not to fight it. I have thought about doing a podcast, and some of the incidents, like my daughter passing and whatever, of the last 8 months has really been focusing on me and about I've really kind of become a hermit. I mean, it's and the old tale is that the shaman lived on the edge of the tribe out in the woods. I get it. I understand that now.
It's difficult to be around other people.
The energy is when you're very sensitive.
I feel like it's really I think I'm arriving at the place where, I'm meeting more people like this. So it's very helpful to see that it's not that, because then I use the language that, feels like how other people would talk about it, which is like, oh, you're just, you're pushing people away, or, you're not being a good friend, or things like that. But it's like, it's not just introvert. It's a matter of the energy that you have to adjust to when you're around people. For me, in my case.
And I always suggest to people, like, literally, it has gotten to the point especially in the last month, where before I leave to go out to do something, and I go out and do very little. I mean, I'm I go to Trader Joe's and I'll make a Costco because I love their $5 chicken. But and it's only 5 minutes away, so it's a no-brainer.
It's understandable.
Yeah, no brainer. But the thing about it is to understand that I can't see anything in anybody else if I haven't either been working on it myself or I have in the process of working on it. Like when you just said, I am, sensitive and I didn't fit in. I just sat here going, yeah, that's me. I went through all of that, and I still go through all of that. It's just not running my life. Yeah. That decision that's going on. And if I could, nobody ever hears me do a podcast, yours or my own again. Okay, what I would really like people to understand is when you go to somebody, and you're guided to go somebody, you have the right to find out who they are. Because there are so many people out there that read a book and it's like reading a cookbook on how to bake a cake. Okay, I do this and this and this and it works. You do not want me to cook something for you. Okay? I can find your soul. I can get rid of energy that doesn't, I can sing a great song, but cooking, I'm a disaster in the kitchen. Yeah. I've got a lot of cookbooks that say 5 ingredients only, and I'm good to go.
I have those as well.
Yeah. So find out who they are, and if somebody says, "Well, my guides," ask, "Well, who are you talking to?" Be definitive about this, because you're opening yourself up to energy, and if you're very sensitive, you want to make sure you're safe, and that person may not have any intention at all of causing you any harm. I will tell you that one of the things that really made me think I have got to teach mediumship, because you can be a medium without being a shaman, but it's pretty hard to be shamanic without being a medium. Okay, there was a woman that in town, we have a series of psychic bookshops. Okay, that have people in there that will do readings. Every town has some. Yeah. And one day, this one gal who had come to one of my circles when I was doing circles would say, she came up to me and she goes, she goes, "I don't know what you do when you have a bad day." And I said, "If it's a really bad day, they won't see me." but I kind of have a rule of thumb of I've got to be at least 80%. If I woke up this morning and I was like 30%, I would have said, hey, you guys going to have to find somebody else. Yep. I can't do this. But I woke up feeling about a 9, so I'm good. Yeah. So, and she said, well, when I have a bad day, I just go in and I make shit up.
Oh, that's not cool.
Oh. They're out there. And there's some very good mediums. Yeah. So be a little discerning. Find out who are you talking to, and one of the best ways is, and some people, one of the things I don't do is people will come. I had one gal say, well, I want to know if this guy is good for me to marry.
I get that that's all not my the deal. Time. Yeah,
that's not my deal. Well, but you run into this. Mm-hmm. And here's the truth. If I go to my spirit guides and teachers and say, I'm here for Susie Q and she wants to know if she needs to marry what's his name, if it's going to be a good marriage, they're going to go, yeah, it's a good marriage. And I'm going, really? And they say, yeah, because it'll be the best thing in her life and she'll love it, or it'll be the worst thing in her life and she'll learn from it. Yeah. It's a good marriage.
And it's the answer that no one wants to hear all the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. She paid me $75. I said, I only saw her for about a half an hour, and I just picked up a rattle and went, and I said, what did they say? And I said, well, it's going to be a problem. Yeah. But if you love this guy, you're going to have to decide if you want to try it on or not. Yeah. She goes, thank you, $75, and walked out. I never saw her again. I'm not interested in that. That's not what I'm interested is your soul. Yeah. I'm interested in like with you, your intent is good. And Jermaine's kind of standing on the edges going, I kind of like this. I don't know if I want to jump in yet, but I kind of like this.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's fair. Yeah. That's fair. It's just fair. And so be discerning. Look for the people that have read a cookbook and they say, I know how to do this. And that's the other thing is I put out there, I don't call myself a shaman. People call me that. Mm-hmm. I call myself a shamanic practitioner. Yeah. Because I have to put a flag out there so they can find me somehow. Mm-hmm. But and the other thing, here's number 2, decide who they are and find out how deeply they're doing their own work. Because I've just been through the last 5 days from a simple statement that somebody made to me last Thursday. Real quickly, I've lost 50 pounds in the last 6 months. And I feel like I've dropped this shell that I've been holding on to for dear life. Yeah. And a good friend of mine online, we play a game together online. I'm a gamer online, said to me one morning, he says, my wife and I we're going to go find some orange infused olive oil. And I went, oh, that's cool. You guys have a great time. And all of a sudden, all this emotion came up. And I thought, what the heck? Where is this coming from? Mm-hmm. What is it in me that's reacting to this? And I realized it's because there's a vulnerable part of myself that had been hiding behind this wall of weight from all the disappointments in relationships in my life. And for the first time in a long time, I realized I woke up and I wouldn't mind rolling over and saying to somebody, my husband or my partner or my boyfriend or whatever, what do you want to do today? Yeah. You want to go find some orange infused olive oil? I mean, yeah. And it's been a long time since I felt that. And that's the kind of work that needs to be going on with whoever you go see. If you're going to go share your soul with them, find out they're working on theirs too. Mm-hmm. Because we do until our last breath. Yeah. And as I told another friend of mine, if you don't want to work on this now, it's fine. When you go, I can find you. I'll find you on the other side.
You can do it. You can take care of it now, or you can do it later.
And I'll get you over there.
And if it's over there, we'll make it a quick one. You'll already be out of the body.
I don't have to go on a journey.
Exactly.
I'll just know exactly where you are. Yeah.
Yep. Just take that plant and knock it over, and I'll know it's you.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm recording a song called Nightingale. Yeah. That I don't know if many people have heard it. If they're a Trisha Yearwood fan, they'll have heard it. You want me to sing it for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I do that like that. This is like, she's going to actually sing. Yeah. Okay. So close your eyes for a minute.
Okay.
Both of you, just take a deep breath. Just close your eyes. And think about a time when you felt like all was lost. Okay. Just nod your heads when you're there. When you thought, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to find my way back. Right? Okay. So listen to this. Yesterday I thought that I walked alone and that love was just a memory. But a nightingale followed me back home, and love was waiting there for me. I had lost my faith, as others often do, when the storm clouds gather overhead. But the nightingale sang a note so true that I knew I'd lost my fear instead. And to think that I thought love was for fools, and that time would never heal these old wounds. But the nightingale saved a prayer for me in the twilight. It sang a faithful tune. Now just take a deep breath and come back to the room. Slowly wiggle your fingers and notice your hands are yours, not somebody else's.
I'm just all warm and fuzzy. How are you doing?
Where'd you go? Where'd you go, Jermaine? I can't hear you.
Oh, your mic's.
He really checked out.
Yeah.
I was just saying, you have a beautiful voice.
Thank
that
you.
Was awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank
so
you
what
so
do you
much
do for a living,
song.
Jermaine?
So I actually I work in HR and employee benefits, and
oh man, you see it all.
Yeah. I mean, right now I'm between jobs, but I'm venturing into voiceover work. So I'm just starting the.
Very cool. I've done some voiceover.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I haven't. I have my coach, who was the voice of Cadillac for 9 years.
Oh wow.
She's from New York. I love her. She drives me crazy. She sees through all of my crap, you know. When I was going to voiceover class, coaching, and she came up to me one day and she goes, "I don't know what the F is wrong with you." And I went, "I don't know."
You can curse on here.
Then she goes, "You have more talent in your little finger than most people that walk through my door, and I just don't know why you're not using it. When are you going to do it?" And I said, she left me speechless, you know.
Yeah.
You'd have a great voice.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. It's something I said I'd do when I got older, and here I am older, and I haven't done it yet.
It's never too late.
It's never too late, and that's one of the things I've been wrestling with. Because I know a lot of people that are sitting home watching the news, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of people can't believe that my age. A lot of people can't believe that I'm going to be 70 in September, you know, and I don't feel that way. And apparently I don't look that way because I've got these young guys wanting me to go out, and I'm going, yeah, I don't know. I think I'd eat you for breakfast. I don't know if that'll work.
I think you should try it.
Yeah, there you go.
I think it's an experience, right? It's an experience that you're going to learn something from.
Well, see, here's the problem. I don't have any history to rely on to tell me how to do this because I married everybody I dated.
That's an excuse.
I'm not married anymore. And I'm just saying the history is that, I've been married 3 times. And
the easiest way, the most direct way. Hold on. Let me see if I have something for you.
Oh, this would be cool. I love this. And she's going to put it out on air. Yeah.
Maybe. Who knows?
In her stupid way.
Felt cute. Might not post. Okay. I know, not in my stupid way.
In my way.
So I'm kind of talking to my guides, and I'm like, well, for me, it's the guides. There's a couple. Again, I don't know who they are.
Yeah, because you've changed.
Yeah, but I know that they are. I feel like there's 3. There's a main male right now, and the 2 other voices are it feels like just mainly him. It's a very loving. It feels like an uncle-y type of energy for me. Basically I get this image of like, you know, I'm like, come on, what's going on with her? Does she is she dipping her toes in the water? And I, have you kind of picture of you like dipping your toes in like the side of a lake. And then what they flashed in front of me is like, no, she's hiding behind the trees. So
I can buy that. Yeah. I'm peeking out now. I wasn't
peeking out. I see you
before.
kind of like.
Yeah, I'm peeking out now, and it came from, and I was telling my music producer, you know, he said, "Does this mean you're going to date now?" And I said, I don't know, but I'm going to be connecting in a different way, and I'm willing to be open to that, you know. Yeah. See, that's the kind of work you want to hear from whoever you're going to see.
I mean, I think that I feel like for you, it's better to start doing one or two things that feel like a new skill, but at one in which you would actually meet someone naturally, as opposed to like a date app.
Yeah, can you imagine? And I did this on eHarmony one time.
Yeah.
And I got one guy that all he wanted to know is if I was into tantric sex, and I went,
"Oh, Jesus Christ.
No, that's not what tantric.
Whenever a guy comes, anyway, so. Whenever a man is coming at you with, I'm like super spiritual, that's a red flag."
That's right.
It's the biggest red flag out there. And I'm going to say this on the podcast for anyone who's listening: stay away. Stay away. That's all I'm going to say, because we are still living in a patriarchal system. There is a benefit to a man in that position who is appearing to balance his feminine as well. And there's a lot of ego there. Of course, I'm generalizing, but there's a lot of ego there, and there's a lot of dangerous masculine out there under that guise.
And the other thing is that the old shamans they didn't call themselves shamans either, because anytime you adhere to a label, your ego's in there somehow. Shamanism. Anybody hears shaman now, and well, except for the riots when that idiot out there with the horns and the furs.
Oh God, the QAnon guy.
That was just like, and I'm sitting there going, oh my God, we're gonna have to play this one down now, you know.
Yeah, I know. Let's not.
I loved the week later. I've got Native American friends are sending me videos of saying, no, we don't wear foxes on our head.
Yeah.
I know.
Our country is so embarrassing.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you guys are great. This is, I love the energy of this.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, it takes all three of us in this space. You know?
Yeah. And I've thought about doing a podcast, but what I've also realized is that I have been a one-woman show for so long. Yeah. It's time for me to be connected to other people. Yeah. You know, more. So there's a balance to be had.
Collaboration, I think, is something that if I didn't collaborate with other people in a lot of certain things just to get myself started, I have to say that's what's most exciting. And we've talked about this. I think it's so exciting to collaborate with like-minded people, because it's about building something new. And even if it's, you know, the work, the healing type of work that you're doing, or I'm doing, or even Jermaine's doing with his voice, like any of that, like healing kind of work, I feel like there's other things that we do as well that we can make, you know, we can bring something else. So it's like the fact that you're bringing this voice, this singing, and this vibrational, energetic healing work to people.
It took me a long time to figure out that it didn't matter whether I stood in a room and didn't say a word, or if I was singing crazy, or if I was doing something, working with a client. It didn't matter. For some reason, I've been born, like you have, Jermaine, with a sound in my voice that's healing. And it's a gift to be shared, as opposed to be one that's held onto to protect it.
Gotcha. Yeah, this is the first year where I'm actually leaning into that. Because I was just kept it to myself. I wasn't really. I mean, when I was younger, I wanted to do things, but life happens and you got to pay bills. So, it just so happens that things matched up, and so now I feel a little bit more confident going out there, putting my voice out there. And also thanks to Jen, because I wouldn't have done a podcast if it wasn't for her. So
same.
Well, I knew from the moment I met Jen, I knew after the first phone call, I said, there's a connection here I need to follow. There's something here that's going on.
It's a really great
told
one.
me what and I knew what she when she told me what her background was, I went, oh yeah, she's got a whole lot of stuff I don't have to reinvent the wheel to learn, you know.
Yeah, it's same here. Like the background leads me to this spot.
Mm-hmm. And so does yours, Jermaine. And that all. How long were you in HR?
15 years.
All of that brought you to this point. There's something you got from it, whether it was simply having touched so many personalities so you can recognize them when they show up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like in your data bank.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you'll see. You can see it. You can see it when it's coming. I got a really funny story I could tell you, but it's no, not today. Maybe another time. I don't know how rated this is. I don't know how GP this is. I'm curious, Jermaine, where did you go when you heard me singing? Because you went somewhere.
Well, so you told us to go to a really hard time in our life where we didn't know we could get out of it, and I went back maybe 2 years ago to Atlanta for my brother's funeral. Which was
perfect.
Extremely hard because I think that before that trip, I never really knew how much of an empath I was until I was surrounded by about 10 people yelling at each other and just me soaking in every single person's energy and just being miserable. So yeah, that's kind of where I went, because that's also something I've had to process the last 2 years too, through therapy and everything else.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, that's where I went.
Could you tell where you were before I started singing and after? Did you take a journey? And you may not have. It doesn't matter. But I'm just curious.
I mean, you know, before I was present, you know, here and listening and soaking it in, and then when you started singing, I just really love your voice, and I easily went back. I went back to that period, and it wasn't as painful as it normally has been. It was more so just me just recognizing it and being there while you were singing. And I also thought about how my brother had come to me, the one that passed. He came to me during that time, and I was just like, I just can't deal. I just don't know why it has to be this way. And he just told me it's not that serious. You know, you'll be fine. And that was like the last day we were there. So I kind of relived all of that.
Very cool. Because I sang for about a minute and a half, something like that.
Yeah.
Did time goes away on a journey?
Yeah.
It goes away. Time doesn't exist on that side. Pain doesn't exist on that side. If there is, it's because you're locked in your ego somehow on the journey. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't feel any pain, which was, you know, good for a change.
Nothing like being a gem. Nothing like being an Aries.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I haven't paid attention to horoscopes in many years, but when I did, like I felt like a true Aries, you know.
Yeah. You need the freedom to be who you are.
Yeah.
All Aries need to do that, and they can change on a moment's notice.
Yeah.
They have every right to.
They have every right to.
Only people in my life right now are Aries. Like all 3 of my besties are Aries.
Yeah.
Actually 4.
Some of the key people that have brought the greatest lessons to me have been Aries people. Because they stir things up for me. Otherwise, my Virgo librarian would be still organizing books on the bookshelf, you know. Yeah.
I'm dazzled by Aries all the time. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
This was fun.
This was fun.
We could go on for another 3 hours.
We really could.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And Jermaine, you get my phone number from Jen.
I will.
Yeah.
I want you to consider adding me to your family.
Consider
it.
I'm like, that's my family getting bigger.
Thank you.
That's all I want. Yes. I just want to start a commune. I want to start my own Burning Man. And I just want everyone I know and love to come and hang out with one another because.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I love you both. I will talk to you both soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Hello again. How did that feel? I hope it felt good. I hope you learned something. And I hope that you gained something from this episode, as with all of our episodes. I want to make sure that if you want to get in touch with Laini, you can find her. She's at lainiristo.com. It's LAINIRISTO.com. Again, LAINIRISTO.com. It was such a pleasure. The conversation flowed so easily. It really, it meant a lot for me to bring her to you guys. And I hope that you find yourself understanding a little bit more about shamanism and kind of what it is. Just a better understanding of it. Laini is amazing, obviously, as I keep saying over and over. So please get in touch with her if you want to work with her, or just get in touch with us. You can find us at the Self-Consciousness Podcast on Instagram. Please like and give us ratings on Apple Podcasts. See you next week.